Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now, I'm going to explain to you about these three important terms. Okay, before we can do the incremental analysis, you need to know what is meant by relevant cost, what is opportunity cost, and what is sunk cost. Okay, if you go to your textbook, okay, you can see that illustration 7.3. Okay, you can see what is meant by relevant cost and revenues. So in incremental analysis, the only factors to be considered are those costs and revenues that differ across alternatives. So that means if alternative A and alternative B, you have to incur that cost, so it becomes an irrelevant cost. So only cost and revenue. If you are talking about the revenue, it will be the revenue. If you are talking about the cost, then it will be the cost. So that differ, right? So they're different between your alternatives. So those factors are called a relevant cost or relevant revenues. So what about the cost and revenue that do not change? See? Okay, so costs and revenues that do not differ across alternatives can be ignored when trying to choose between alternatives. That means when you want to make decision, you just consider cost and revenue that differ. Okay, they differ, they change between the alternatives. So if the cost remains the same or it is unchanged, then you do not consider that in your decision making. Okay. Let's look at this as an example. If let's say you have two alternatives, you have alternative 1 and you have alternative 2. And then let's say you incur a certain cost or revenue, cost A, let's say cost A. If for alternative 1, you have to incur that cost. And then if let's say you proceed with alternative 2, you still have to incur for that particular cost. So in that case, you can say that that particular cost is irrelevant. Okay, sorry about that. So that means if that particular cost you have to incur for both alternatives, then it becomes irrelevant. What if for both alternatives you do not have to incur that particular cost? So if you do not have to incur that particular cost, then that will also become irrelevant cost. Okay, what if for that particular cost you have to incur for one alternative and you do not have to incur for another alternatives? So that means if you proceed with alternative 1, you have to incur cost C. But if you do not proceed if you proceed with alternative 2, then you do not have to incur that particular cost C. So in that case, that is considered as your relevant cost. So it differs across your alternatives. The same goes if you do not have to incur that particular cost if you go with alternative 1, and you have to incur if you go for alternative 2, then in that case, that particular cost is a relevant cost. So remember, if a certain cost you have to incur or you do not have to incur for both alternatives, then that will become your irrelevant cost. Or if you are talking about the revenue, that will be irrelevant revenue. But if that cost differ means you have to incur here and you do not have to incur here, or you do not have to incur here or you have to incur it here, then that becomes a relevant cost. So what is relevant cost? So those costs and revenues that differ across alternatives, that is relevant cost. So once you have understand that, then we move on into opportunity cost. So often in choosing one course of action, the company must give up the opportunity to benefit from some other course of action. So for example, if a machine is used to make one type of product, so the benefit of making another type of product with that machine is lost. So if you are using, let's say, machine A to produce, machine A is being used to produce your product. And if you are taking another order, or for example another order, then the production cannot continue with the same machine. So in that case, you will lose something. So that is your opportunity cost. So the lost potential benefit is referred to as the opportunity cost. Take for example, you have only 10 ringgit in your pocket, and then you are so hungry that you want to eat something. Okay, let's say you have a plate of biryani rice and you also have this ice cream. So you intend to have both. But because you have limited resources, in this case, your resources is only is the money that you have, and the money that you have is only 10 ringgit. So let's say the price of this plate of biryani is 10 ringgit, and the price of this ice cream is also 10 ringgit. So because of the limited resources that you have to choose one. So let's say if you choose this one, nasi biryani, then you have to let go of your next best alternative, that is the ice cream. So if you choose the biryani rice, then you have to let go this ice cream. So the ice cream will be the opportunity cost. So the next best alternative that you have to forgo because of the alternative that you have chosen. So that is the meaning of opportunity cost. Okay, if you just Google the meaning of opportunity cost, then you can see it is the loss of other alternatives when one alternative is chosen, or is the loss of the benefit that could have been enjoyed if if the best alternative choice were chosen instead. For example, in the case of the ice cream and biryani just now, if let's say you have chosen the biryani, then the loss of benefit, the loss of enjoying the ice cream will be lost. So that is the opportunity cost. So it is defined as opportunity cost represents the potential benefits an individual or investors or business misses out when choosing one alternative over another. So because you choose alternative A, you tend to lose the benefit of alternative B. So that is the meaning of opportunity cost. So the next thing that you need to know is about the sunk cost. So what is sunk cost? Costs that have already been incurred and will not be changed or avoided by any present or future decisions are referred to as sunk cost. So you have already incurred that particular cost. So that will be irrelevant for decision making. So for example, the amount you spent in the past to purchase or repair a laptop should have no bearing on your decision whether to buy a new laptop. So sunk costs are not relevant costs. So meaning, if let's say now you have already purchased a car 5 years ago. So let's say you purchased a Myvi 5 years ago, and now you want to decide whether you want to purchase a new Honda or not. So your decision now won't be affected by the decision that you have made in the past, because you already bought the Myvi 5 years ago. So the decision that you want to make now does not depends on the decision that you have made earlier, or the price of that car that you have already paid for example. So some costs are costs that you have already incurred in the past. For example, the cost of Myvi you purchased 5 years ago is 50,000. So 50,000, the cost of Myvi when you purchase it is irrelevant when you want to decide whether you want to purchase a new car or not now. Okay, so that is sunk cost. So in short, when you want to make a decision, you have to consider what the relevant cost. So the relevant cost is should be considered when you want to make decision. And then what about the opportunity cost? Yes, opportunity cost you have to you have to consider when you want to make decision, because it differs across alternatives. And then what about the sunk cost? Sunk cost is the cost that you have already incurred in the past. Therefore, when you want to make decision is something for the future, right? Or for the present or for the future. Sunk cost is something for the past. So something for the past is irrelevant for your decision making. So sunk cost is not relevant. So hopefully you have a better understanding on the difference between relevant cost and irrelevant cost, the opportunity cost as well as the sunk cost. Okay, with that, I thank you.